The first time Elena Carter realized her husband might be capable of murder, it was already too late to leave. The words came out of Alexander Vance's mouth as calmly as if he were discussing tomorrow's weather. "If Victor Hale dies tonight," he said quietly, "the police will call it an accident." Elena felt the air leave her lungs. They were standing on the balcony of their penthouse apartment, 40 floors above Chicago. The city stretched endlessly below them, lights glittering like broken diamonds in the darkness. Alexander leaned against the railing, his posture relaxed, one hand in his pocket. He looked perfectly calm, perfectly in control, and that terrified her. "You're joking," Elena said carefully. Alexander turned his head slowly. His dark eyes held no humor. "I never joke about revenge." A chill ran down her spine. 3 months ago she had married this man to save her father's company. Now she wasn't sure if she had married a genius or a monster. But the truth was worse, because part of her wanted him to do it. Victor Hale had destroyed her life, and Elena had learned something terrifying about revenge. Once the anger started burning, it never stopped. 3 months earlier, Elena's life had been simple. She worked long hours as financial director at Carter Biotech, the small pharmaceutical company her father built from nothing. The company wasn't huge, but it had heart. Michael Carter had started it 15 years earlier with one goal: develop treatments big corporations ignored because they weren't profitable enough. For years they struggled. Some months Elena wondered if they would survive at all. But her father never lost hope. "Medicine should save lives," he always said, "not just make money." Then everything changed. 6 months earlier their research team discovered something extraordinary: a chemical compound that showed early signs of slowing aggressive cancer cells. The trials were still in early stages, but the potential was enormous. If it worked, it could change modern medicine. Elena remembered the night her father told her. They were sitting in his office surrounded by stacks of research files. He looked happier than she had seen in years. "This could be it," he said softly. "The breakthrough we've been chasing." Elena smiled. "You're going to change the world." Her father laughed. "I'm going to give people hope. But hope attracts predators." And 2 weeks later the first one arrived. The offer came from Titan Industries, the largest pharmaceutical corporation in the country. Their CEO was a man named Victor Hale. Elena knew him. Everyone in the industry knew him. Victor Hale had built Titan into a multi-billion-dollar empire by acquiring smaller companies and absorbing their research. Sometimes legally, sometimes not. The offer was insulting. Titan wanted to buy Carter Biotech for a fraction of its value. Her father refused immediately. 3 days later, everything began collapsing. Their primary investor suddenly withdrew funding. 2 major suppliers canceled contracts without explanation. Banks rejected their loan applications. Even their research partners quietly distanced themselves. It felt like someone was pulling invisible strings behind the scenes. Then came the final blow. Elena arrived at the office one evening and found her father lying on the floor beside his desk. The paramedics said it was a heart attack. Stress, they explained. Michael Carter had been under enormous pressure. The funeral was quiet, small. But one guest stood out: Victor Hale. He approached Elena beside the grave wearing a perfect black suit and a sympathetic expression. "I'm truly sorry for your loss," he said. Elena stared at him with hollow eyes. "Then stop trying to steal his company." Victor sighed softly. "You're young, Elena. You don't understand how this industry works." His voice lowered slightly. "Companies like yours don't survive alone. And if you refuse help..." He let the sentence hang unfinished. But the meaning was clear. This wasn't over. After the funeral, the pressure intensified. Government regulators began investigating Carter Biotech. Anonymous articles appeared online questioning their research. Their stock plummeted. Within weeks, the company was on the edge of bankruptcy. Elena realized something terrifying. Victor Hale wasn't negotiating anymore. He was eliminating competition. That's when a former colleague gave her a name: Alexander Vance, a billionaire investor who specialized in hostile corporate warfare. Some people called him brilliant. Others called him ruthless. But everyone agreed on one thing: Alexander Vance never lost. Elena scheduled a meeting with him. The Vance global headquarters towered over downtown Chicago like a monument to power. When Elena stepped into Alexander's office, she immediately felt out of place. Floor-to-ceiling glass walls revealed the city skyline. Everything looked expensive, controlled, silent. Alexander sat behind a massive desk reviewing documents. He didn't even look surprised when she entered. "You're Elena Carter," he said calmly. "Yes. You're refusing Titan Industries' acquisition offer." "That's correct." Alexander finally looked up. His gaze was intense enough to make her feel like she was being dissected. "Most companies in your position would accept the money. My father didn't build this company to sell it." Alexander studied her for a moment. "Your father also didn't expect Titan Industries to destroy him." The word struck like a punch. "You think they did this?" "I know they did." He turned his laptop toward her. Emails, financial transactions, private meetings. Victor Hale had been quietly orchestrating the collapse of Carter Biotech for months. Elena's hands trembled. "You can prove this?" "Eventually. But investigations take time. And your company won't survive long enough." Elena felt the last thread of hope slipping away. "So what do I do?" Alexander leaned back in his chair. "Marry me." The word stunned her. "I'm sorry, what?" "Titan Industries believes you're vulnerable," Alexander explained calmly. "But if you become my wife, they'll hesitate." Elena stared at him in disbelief. "You're proposing a business marriage?" "Yes. You get protection. And you. I get access." "To what?" Alexander's expression hardened. "The people who murdered your father." Elena froze. "What did you say?" Alexander opened a file. Inside was a toxicology report. "Your father didn't die from stress. He was poisoned." The room seemed to spin. "That's impossible." "The toxin mimicked heart failure." Elena felt anger burning through the grief. "Victor Hale." Alexander nodded. "He ordered it." Her hands clenched into fists. Alexander slid a contract across the desk. "Help me destroy Titan Industries. And I'll help you get justice." Elena stared at the document. This decision would change everything. Her future. Her freedom. Her life. But when she thought about her father, she picked up the pen. "I'll marry you." The wedding lasted 8 minutes. A private courthouse. 2 witnesses. No celebration. But when the news broke, the entire corporate world reacted. Alexander Vance had married Elena Carter. Within hours, Carter Biotech stock surged. Titan Industries executives demanded emergency meetings. Because everyone knew something. Alexander Vance didn't make random moves. Every action had a purpose. But Victor Hale wasn't worried. In fact, he was smiling. Because he had already prepared his counterattack. 2 weeks after the wedding, Elena began noticing something strange. Alexander rarely slept. His office lights stayed on deep into the night. He constantly reviewed files about Titan Industries. Surveillance photos. Financial records. Phone logs. One night Elena walked into his office unexpectedly. Several screens showed photos of Titan executives. Alexander quickly closed them. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "You're spying on them." "I'm preparing." "For what?" Alexander met her eyes. "For war." 3 days later, Elena was kidnapped. She had just left Carter Biotech headquarters when a black SUV forced her car off the road. Masked men pulled her out before she could scream. A hood went over her head. Her phone disappeared. The vehicle sped away. Hours later, she was tied to a chair inside a warehouse. Victor Hale stood in front of her. "You should have accepted my offer," he said calmly. Elena glared at him. "You killed my father." Victor tilted his head. "Your father made a poor business decision. You murdered him." Victor shrugged. "Business is ruthless." Elena's chest burned with fury. "You'll never get away with this." Victor smiled. "Oh, I don't plan to." He leaned closer. "I plan to blame your husband." Elena felt her heart skip. "What?" "Alexander Vance has many enemies," Victor explained. "If you disappear, people will assume he had something to do with it." Elena realized something horrifying. Victor didn't just want Carter Biotech. He wanted to destroy Alexander too. But Victor had made a terrible mistake. He underestimated Alexander Vance. When Alexander received the kidnapping call, the room went silent. His security chief looked pale. "They want you to transfer Carter Biotech immediately." Alexander stood slowly. "And if I refuse? They'll kill her." For a moment Alexander said nothing. Then he smiled. And it was the coldest smile anyone in the room had ever seen. Victor Hale just made the biggest mistake of his life. Within minutes Alexander activated resources most people didn't know he possessed. Private intelligence teams began tracking vehicles. Cyber experts hacked phone networks. Satellite data was analyzed. Within hours they located the warehouse. Alexander grabbed his coat. "You're not going alone," his security chief warned. Alexander checked the gun hidden beneath his jacket. "Yes," he said calmly. "I am." Inside the warehouse Victor was still speaking when the first gunshot echoed outside. His guards rushed toward the entrance. Too late. The metal doors burst open. Alexander Vance walked through the smoke. His security team moved like professionals. Within seconds Victor's men were disarmed. Victor tried to run. Alexander caught him near the exit. Their eyes locked. "You should have stayed out of this," Victor hissed. Alexander's voice was ice. "You poisoned Michael Carter." Victor smirked. "Prove it." Alexander held up his phone. "I already did." Police sirens echoed outside. Victor's expression changed. "What did you do?" "I recorded everything." Victor had just confessed. Within minutes police stormed the warehouse. Victor Hale was arrested. Over the next weeks Titan Industries collapsed under investigation. Executives were charged. Hidden crimes surfaced. The empire fell. Weeks later Elena stood again on the balcony. The same place Alexander had spoken about revenge. "You used me," she said quietly. Alexander didn't deny it. At first. "And now?" Alexander looked at her for a long moment. "Now I'd burn the world down to protect you." Elena studied his face. The man she married for revenge had somehow become the one person she trusted most. She stepped closer. "Would you still have married me if none of this happened?" Alexander hesitated. Then he said softly, "I would have married you the moment you walked into my office." Elena felt her heart skip. Because for the first time, their marriage didn't feel like a contract. It felt real. And somewhere in the city below, new enemies were already watching, waiting. Because when you marry the most dangerous billionaire in the world, the war never truly ends. But Elena Carter Vance wasn't afraid anymore. Because this time, she wasn't fighting alone. If you enjoyed this billionaire revenge story, let me know in the comments what you would have done in Elena's place. Would you trust a man like Alexander Vance? Or run the moment you discovered how dangerous he really was? And if you love intense billionaire thriller stories like this one, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, because the next story might be even darker.